been participating, and Vic Jindal, who've participated in hosting these events. So again, this is different. We should all have champagne or something like that. I hope you find this warm and welcoming and, you know, informative, that we can all share. I'm going to speak a little bit. I'm going to turn it to Diane and to Vijay and to Lori. But I want us to be able to have an opportunity to share, you know, how we're feeling, what we've been doing, what the foundation has been doing, and just to bring you up to date. So we've gathered together today on this call are fund holders from across all types of funds, community fund, donor designated, donor directed, donor advised, etc., just to bring you up to speed on what we've been doing. The format today, we're going to have Vijay, who is our Vijay Venkatesan. He's our VP Finance and Operations. He's going to lead you through some of the, you know, the investments, how we've performed over the past while, what we're doing in other areas. Lori's going to talk to you about the grants, in particular the COVID grants that are really important to all of us in what we've been doing. And Diane is Director of Philanthropy. She's going to talk to us about the donations, what we're doing, how we're focusing, funds that have resulted in donors who have come forward through this experience that we've had. Each will share their what's been happening within their portfolios. During the presentation, as Uliana said, could everyone just keep muted until we open it up to conversation? But we really then hope that you understand the floor is open. Picture this, you're in Fred's backyard and you are, you know, intermingling between each other and talking to each other. We hope that we can have that kind of dialogue today. But we're thinking that it'd probably be best if we waited until the end. Diane is going to moderate questions that you can do. You can use your chat on video if you'd like, or just, you know, raise your hand if you'd like. If there's something in particular that we're talking about at that time you have a question, please don't hesitate to ask. But if we can, we're being mindful of your time. We've scheduled an hour, so we're not going to go over it if we can help it. For everyone, we understand that this is precious time for everybody. Keep an eye out for an email from Diane's team asking for your feedback as we go through. So this is our first time doing something, and we do want to hear from you, and we hope you enjoy this, as I mentioned. Discuss afterward and let us know anything that any feedback that we don't cover today. We really would like to hear from you. I'm going to begin by sharing some of LCF's key strategic initiatives that we've been able to launch this year. When the world felt like it was shutting down in March and panic was setting in, I was reminded how fortunate the community foundation is to have, the community is to have a public foundation such as ours to be here in times of crisis. And I think you'll hear more about that as we go along. Judith, in particular, I look at you and I think of when I first started and where we were then to where we are now, monumental. So thank you. So starting with the COVID Response Fund, we had committed to our general regular grant programs with our community fund and donor directed funds. And we were able to seed the COVID Response Fund with income earned through investments from our social impact fund. Vijay will explain this more, but basically what it is that we have taken capital and we've invested it in loans, and the income that's earned on those loans has gone back into funding our community, the COVID response fund in particular, as well as other initiatives. In March, we pulled income from this fund to start the COVID response fund, and quickly had the Lawson Foundation and the Westminster College Foundation come forward and want to be part of this fund. We then had the federal government offer through Community Foundations of Canada emergency response funding. So our COVID community fund decided that it would be start with response, which we did with the federal government and some of our funding, but also focus on rebuilding and sustainability and recovery, recognizing that there were going to be a lot of charitable organizations really struggling with, first of all, responding to needs of the communities that they were supporting, but also we were looking at how are these organizations going to survive, and should they survive, and what can we do to make sure that the most sustainable do. So we've really focused our energies on that. I'm excited to announce that we've just completed our 4th round of COVID-19 funding. Lori's going to talk about that in a little while. Into the housing fund. So again, we have taken capital that has been invested unrestricted in our community fund, and we've taken some of that money, put it into an affordable housing fund that is primarily loans for housing, but also for social enterprise, but it's loan money. So the income does get paid back. I am really excited to say that we're at $20 million right now. We have about $11 million out the door and being repaid back. So we started this in 2012 and launched our first loan. Our goal at the time when we started this was 5% of our available assets to invest in housing and social enterprise. The Governor General, previous Governor General, David Johnson, challenged the foundations across the country to invest up to 10% of its assets into social enterprise and affordable housing. And I am happy to say that we are there. We are so fortunate to have received an almost $5 million gift from Lorraine Ivy Shuttleworth for affordable housing adjacent to the river in Soho. Lorraine had such wisdom in her granting over the years and her donations over the years. She was responsible for starting our operating endowment fund, and then saw that there's an opportunity that we could build affordable housing in Soho that would be trying to address the needs in our community, which are huge. So we're at $20 million. Affordable housing remains a priority for our community, especially now more than ever with the pandemic. We're seeing more and more cases of families. Example, 5,000 families are on the wait list for geared to income housing. This is a major problem that is just going to be exacerbated over the next year or so as we deal with this. We are proud to say LCF has assisted in the creation of 350 units of housing through 11 loans. Our goal is to create 300 units per year over the next 10 years to fill the gap in our community. And I have to say, we're very proud to have a group of volunteers who are working diligently with developers to work in the old hospital lands that you probably all know have been primarily taken down, with the exception of 2 properties. So we're really excited about that and progressing that. Vital signs. As you know, we do this every 2 years. This year, given that we're all working remotely, we decided that we would do this as a remote publication. It's called Be the Change. With the pandemic hitting our community so hard, the requests we've seen to the COVID fund, we felt it really important to take this the way to address it. So I hope you will go online, if you haven't, to look at Be the Change, london.ca. We are going to be doing a series of where we had physical meetings to deal with the last issue of mental health, or vital signs, which was really around mental health and addictions. We had physical meetings. We're doing them all virtually now. So I encourage you, if you can, to go on the website, Be the Change, and watch for all the updates that are going to happen, the conversations that we're going to be leading, the input we're going to be asking from people that are interested in this. We're really focusing on diversity, on leaders who share their perspectives on what they're seeing in the sectors that they serve. We believe strongly in social justice and racial equality movements, not only for the broader community, but also for our staff and our volunteers, to make sure that we are, and our donors, to make sure that we are representing the community in which we live. So I really would love you to weigh in on that, look at what we've been publishing, and give us your feedback. We are in the inaugural stages of our next strategic plan. Obviously, COVID made an impact on what we are doing. We used to do a strat plan that was a 10-year vision with a 3-year implementation. Right now, I think we're looking more at a 3-year implementation, because we don't know what's going to happen. We have to be responsive. We're working in completely different times that we were before, but we will be keeping that everyone up to date. We sent a survey in July to all of our stakeholders, and I thank you, because I know a lot of you responded to that and replied with your input to that. We've taken that sincerely. We are using that to help guide our next direction, knowing that we have to be nimble, that we have to be fluid, and that we will plan what we're doing, but we don't know what's going to happen, but we're still going to plan on a good plan, a solid plan. Diane's going to give you some of our feedback about the fund holders and the input that you had before. I'm going to hand this over to Vijay now. Vijay is our Director of Finance and Operations. He's going to update you on endowment and our endowment. When I started at the foundation, I'm in my 20th year now. Whoa. We had $21 million under management, and we are almost at 100 or over $100 million now. So thank you to all of you and our staff and our team, all of our volunteers who have contributed and helped us grow to be able to respond to needs right now that are so relevant in our community. So Beach, your turn. And you're muted, Beach.
You're very quiet.
BJ,
so you're no longer muted, but you're just very quiet.
Can you hear me now?
No.
I will go out and come back in.
Turn up your mic, Beach.
Here, we can move on and then come back, return to VJ, if that makes things easier.
Yeah. Okay. So, Lori.
Okay. Actually, this might be better for me. I didn't really want to follow VJ. He's a hard act to follow. So this is good for me. So first I want to share with you a little bit more of the behind the scenes with the COVID Response Fund. As you can see, we have quite a diverse committee. The way it's structured is that we have 2 volunteers from each of the 3 foundations, and then at least 1 staff representative from each. Of course, they're non-voting members. And this council is chaired by Helen Connell. And so we've gotten to know each other quite well. We've met quite a few times. The various backgrounds and expertise have really made this such an excellent council. And in the time that I've been in this role, there have been lots of attempts for funders to be working together and coordinating. This is an experience I have never been a part of, and I don't know that it's happened like this in the past few years at least. So this has just been excellent. What one doesn't know, the other one does, and we just have a much broader community knowledge pool to draw from, which was really helpful when we were trying to figure out the different phases of the granting that we wanted to do and how to define them. We drew upon different resources. Community foundations had a disaster guide from the past that we could adapt. But then just among us, we considered like where first of all, donors have given generously to this fund. Where are they? What are their priorities? What are they going to expect to see? That is a key consideration with all the decisions and reviews that we do. And as Martha mentioned, the Emergency Community Fund has allowed us to more focus the COVID fund on supporting recovery and rebuild. In addition, our coordination with United Way in terms of granting has been strengthened. So there's that regular conversation, as well as with the City of London, the social services. And just in general, we have a much more active connection with the charitable sector and understanding what the needs are. Which some of them we haven't been able to address. We know they're an issue. They were an issue before COVID. Employment is one for sure. The arts is really hurting. We are going to be making an investment. We have $100,000 committed from this fund, earmarked specifically for the arts sector. So that's certainly a priority. It's also, we've got this qualified donee requirement that is sometimes restrictive when we're trying to reach groups that are disproportionately affected by COVID. There are emerging initiatives in the Community Foundation movement that are seeking to address that. And again, back to the Emergency Community Fund, which is the federally supported fund. There's 3 intermediaries, so community foundations, United Way, and Red Cross. And Red Cross is able to support non-qualified donees. So that's a wonderful option to ensure way more access to support. And as Martha mentioned, the Vital Signs report very much relied on looking at what came in through the door in terms of submissions and what continues to come in through the door for support because of COVID. So I'm happy to say that there's going to be a second round of the Emergency Community Support Fund. So in the first round, we were able to disperse almost $900,000. And on Monday, we'll open it up again and we'll be allocating almost 350,000, which is excellent. And again, that coordination with United Way will be key because we need to ensure no duplication. These national programs that LCF has been able to participate because we're part of the Canadian Community Foundation has given us access to resources that we wouldn't normally have, ability to reach groups that we perhaps wouldn't have prioritized or had the resource to do so. This sort of access to these national programs, it all started with Canada's 150th. We've done the RBC Future Launch. We've done the Pilot Fund for Gender Equality. We're right now doing the second round of the Investment Readiness Program, and then the Emergency Fund. So we're kept very busy, but it's an amazing opportunity for our community and a privilege to be able to facilitate that support. And again, it does push us for more meaningful impact and to question some of the ways that we do adjudicate our programs and learning how to apply an equity lens and that whole trust with applicants and understanding that they know their programs, they know their funding needs, and build that into our assessment. And so, yes, so now we get to talk about the community fund. And I'm going to steal a little bit of Vijay's thunder because he's going to tell you about our amazing operating endowment fund. And because we have that fund, the community fund is able to do what it was intended to do fully. A number of years ago, before that operating endowment fund, sometimes the community fund supported operations, but it no longer needs to do that, and it can support the community vitality program very generously, as well as some other smaller initiatives. So we're very fortunate to have donors and fund holders that entrust the foundation to grant to the most pressing needs and try to address those issues in our community. We do have a diverse committee. Some of you have served on that committee, which we're very grateful for. And we really look for the different experiences and backgrounds and expertise to ensure we have that fulsome access as we review things. And the pandemic for sure influenced our adjudication process this year. I was really thankful that the Community Vitality program could proceed as usual, as planned in 2020. And halfway through the review process, the pandemic came into play. And so we needed to take that into consideration when assessing the applicants. And so, as with our other initiatives, we can't do that community vitality event that we usually love to do. So instead, it will be an online communications huge push with media and emails and a special customized web page and those signature videos that we always have that really capture the essence of the initiatives that were chosen will be available. So we're really excited about that. And I think that's it for me. And I'm not sure if VJ's ready or if it's over to Diane.
Let's hand it over to VJ if we could.
Can you guys hear me? Yes? Okay. Whew. All right. So thanks, everyone. Sorry about that. Something must have happened with the microphone. Very happy to be with you all this morning to highlight the Foundation's financial performance in 2020. It's too bad we can't do it in person, but this is the next best things. So first slide, I really wanted to highlight, this has been the theme of 2020 for many of us. The old British phrase from World War I of keep calm and carry on. And I think for many of us, we've had to remind ourselves of that. And The impact of COVID-19 on the world's markets was really felt in February and March. And March 23rd was actually the lowest point of the markets around the world. We just happened to have a board meeting that was happening on March 26th. So the request of the board chair was for Martha, myself, and our investment committee chair, Khaled Sultan, to present on what the sudden downturn in the markets meant for LCF and how our investment programs were to be impacted and any changes if necessary. And at the time, we didn't know the extent of the markets under our investments and how they would be impacted. However, Khaled highlighted the following, which I thought really relevant and important to share with you all today. So this next slide kind of highlights what he spoke about. So the foundation, this is not our first rodeo. We have been here before. We've been around for 70 years now, and we've seen the ups and downs that are part of being invested in the markets. And with most recent sell-offs during whether it's the 2000 tech bubble, it's the 2008 financial crisis, or the recent sell-off that was happening in the pandemic, we've been resilient through these times and stronger than ever, as I'll share when I show you the financial performance. The LCF program, investment program, was built to perform in both good and bad markets. And past and present committee members have focused really on us having a solid investment policy statement that would guide them and the program with a commitment to two simple objectives. Capital preservation and the protection of our donor contributed capital is first and foremost our most important objective, and steady income growth. The foundation is not trying to maximize returns at all costs. We're simply trying to ensure stable and gradual growth. We have a 6% annual average target over a 10-year rolling period. And the reason that target is important is it's tied to maximizing each donor's capital contribution. The idea is simple. On average, if we can earn 6%, each gift can annually give 4% to the charity of choice. 1.5% could be the admin fee that we use to cover our costs. And the remaining and anything above the 6% accumulates as a buffer to build for a rainy day. And in a moment, I'll share with you a little bit about the admin fee and how it's calculated. So next slide, please, Nick. So we're very fortunate. We've got amazing volunteers on our investment committee. They have a strong experience, skill set managing investments for clients or portfolios. However, they recognize and we recognize that the foundation is different. So apart from those two objectives that we mentioned on capital preservation and the 6% target, the other key difference from their clients is the foundation is investing and giving with a timeline of perpetuity forever. And so the ask of them is to always in their discussions and decisions around the LCF investment program is use that lens, which they do through these investment beliefs, which are essentially our guiding principles for all of our decisions. So I'll quickly highlight those. The first two are arguably the most important for supporting our objectives. A strategic asset allocation and a diversified portfolio has been proven over longer periods of time to be key to success and performance. We have a good mix of both fixed incomes with bonds and GICs and equities, both domestic and international around the world. So the committee will formally review that asset mix every 2 or 3 years. However, on a quarterly basis, it's part of our discussion at each committee member with the simple question, can we still deliver on the 6% target in a safe manner? Number 3 and 4, rebalancing our portfolio and not being tactical, is really around us not trying to market time. It's proven over a long period of time that market timing doesn't work. So with any new money we receive that is to be endowed or invested, we allocate it according to that asset allocation, asset mix. And so when our asset allocation goes out of an acceptable range due to either over or underperformance of the asset classes, we simply just rebalance to the midpoint. We use the old age adage, what goes up must come down, and vice versa. And 5 and 6 are really focused on the importance of managing the costs we pay for the management of those investment programs. We use seasoned best-in-class investment managers. However, we do know fees impact the investment returns that are distributed to our fund holders. So the foundation is always ensuring that we are paying for performance that's critical and that we're getting really good value for each of our investment managers. And the last one, due diligence, is simply the committee's commitment to always, with any new investment opportunities, ensure that we're going through a comprehensive review process when considering anything to implement. As well as looking at the investment in isolation, we look at how it impacts the whole overall portfolio. Again, we're always going back to those two objectives. Donor capital, we can't put it at risk, and slow and steady growth is the key for our success. So let's talk about performance. So as highlighted by Martha, there's still a lot of challenges in the world, and we as Canadians are facing. The market does, though, tend to look forward and look past current challenges to whether it believes the economy and the public companies that make up the markets will be in good shape longer term. And in this instance, the markets believe we'll get through this. So this is already being reflected in our financial and performance results. So as you can see, August year to date, we're up a little over 1%, but more importantly is that 10-year rolling average number. Our target of 6%, we're up a little over 8% right now. So it's a good testament to, over the longer term, the endowment performing well. And the next slide. All right, I tried to make these numbers visually friendly and not overwhelming, and so I'll go box by box. Some thunder did get stolen. I was going to unveil the 100 million, but Martha mentioned it. And the operating endowment, I won't blame Lori. That's my fault for my mic. But we're currently at 101 million, so we're up versus 2019. In 2019, we ranged from between 87 million to finishing the year at 99 million. So in 2020, thanks to continued donation support and the investment income generated, it has allowed us to continue to do record figures in our granting and support our operations and still grow, which is amazing because we know the challenges a lot of not-for-profits are facing. So the next box, bottom left, the general reserve fund. So the general reserve is essentially cash and unrestricted income that's at the discretion of the board that the foundation has available to cover our operations and our various granting programs, such as what Lori was talking about with our community vitality program. So our finance committee had identified having 6 to 12 month reserve for obligations as that should be our target. We set it at 1, which is essentially having a year out in reserves to cover our costs. I'm happy to announce that we're above that 1 and have continued to be above that 1 year after year. Again, good testament to our finance committee, our senior leadership team, and staying committed to proper spending. And then the top box on the right side, our operating endowment. I'm excited to talk about this one. LCF is very unique that we have an operating endowment. And we wanted to highlight why we think it's important to you as a donor. So the operating endowment, as Martha mentioned, was established in 2004 by the Ivy family. And what that fund does is it is established to allow us to generate income to help cover our operating costs. And why I'm sharing this today, I think it's important, is you've got much larger foundations such as Winnipeg and Vancouver. They have close to $1 billion in assets, but they also have much larger operating costs. They employ 40 to 50 people. They've got significant overhead. These costs have to be covered primarily through their donor admin fees. For LCF, we were able to cover a portion of these costs from our operating endowment. So as that endowment grows, our ability to rely less on donor admin fees will mean being able to reduce your fees, which is our goal. We're really just trying to do cost recovery. The lower box on the right, our operating expense ratio, is the most commonly used ratio by all the foundations in determining the efficiency of an organization. So it's a simple calculation. It's your operating expenses as a percentage of your total assets. So foundations that are our size, 75 to 100 million, generally average around 1.5 to 2%, and we will come in under that for 2020. We've been very careful in managing our expenses in 2020, knowing there was so much uncertainty, focusing on our employees and keeping everyone working as they all play a valuable role. We're a small, but we're a mighty team. Everybody is doing so much work. We wanted to make sure they felt we were still committed to them. And focusing on our spending that was around our granting and our donor service programs. Really just kind of managing our discretionary spend. So again, we will come in under budget for 2020, which is a tribute to our finance committee, our senior management team being mindful of how we spend. So thanks everyone. I'm gonna hand it off to Diane then, I guess now, and she'll give you an update and the overview.
Dan, you're muted.
I'm usually good with that stuff. Sorry. Hi, everyone. With all of that shared, I have to say on behalf of all of us, the team, our board, first and foremost, thank you so much for choosing to work with LCF for your giving through your family funds. All this work that Martha, Lori, and VJ shared with you is all because of you. Angela and I and Martha, we have the great privilege and honor of working directly with you, our donors, and your stories certainly do inspire us. And in true community foundation spirit, your areas of interest are very far and wide and represent all aspects that make up our community and our environment. As VJ mentioned and Lori mentioned, and Martha, sorry, that we reached 100 million. This is a significant milestone for our foundation and more importantly, for our community. That said, we know we are living through extraordinary times. We were reminded by our board chair, Jan Pride, recently that in all of LCF's history, the 65 plus years that we've been here, we have never been through something quite like this. We've been through recessions before where we weathered the storm, but this global pandemic has hit our community and the world hard. And then when you couple that with the social unrest around racial inequality, the fires that have happened in Northern Ontario and that are happening in the US right now, and the extreme climate change that we're experiencing, we're truly living through unprecedented times. And just look at our vital signs for the data. And I also want to point out with this high unemployment situation we're in and the economic uncertainty, the gap between the rich and poor is only going to continue to grow. And what that is going to do, it's going to cause incredible pressure for the charitable sector. So increased demand in services, and with the shrinking donor pool, and as well as sectors that are being overlooked right now, such as the arts and environment right now. So I want to remind everyone that Community Foundation model and LCF was specifically founded for times like these. Like when J. Allen Taylor started LCF, it was really because of what he witnessed in Winnipeg with the flood back in the 50s, I believe it was. So that's what inspired him to launch the foundation. And I hope what you heard today is that through the power of endowment and through us taking the long view with your gifts, that we can be there for our community in good times and in bad. And I just want to share some numbers to give you some context. Just going back to what VJ shared about the good stewardship from our investment committee and our finance committee and our board, this really should speak volumes about how the endowment works. With our COVID fund alone, yes, we've raised $1 million in just 3 months, and we've deployed over 500,000 in 5 months, and we're continuing to roll out grants as the situation evolves, and we hope to spend that money by the end of the year. In addition to that, and now turning it over to your family funds, so these are your donor advised funds, your donor designated funds. In just 5 months, we put out over $2 million into the community, and we anticipate putting double that amount by the end of the year. So for a combined total of over $4 million into the community. And that's your money just working quietly behind the scenes. And so I'm positive when I just say this, I'm not saying this just as a staff member, but I'm sure the community at large would echo in that sincere appreciation, especially for those that have been touched by your generosity, for you to choose this model, choosing to give to LCF and Endowment and creating a sustainable source of funding for our community. Now I'd like to share how we plan to grow. So this is with Team Philanthropy. As VJ mentioned, I know we are a small team, and so I'm excited to share that we recently established a donor development committee, and some of the members are on this call right now, and if you want to wave your hands, that would be great. A lot of this is also based on your feedback and discussions that I've had with you as donors, where you've told us that LCF is still an unknown name in the community. We're like the best kept secret. And so this committee is really going to help us make new connections in the community. In addition to that, again, based on previous donor surveys and conversations we've had with you, we are going to do a concerted effort in reaching out to people in Middlesex County, because we do realize that the community's needs have changed in those areas as well. And now turning it over to LCF Strategic Plan, which will be our roadmap for the next 3 years. Martha mentioned to you that we sent you a survey, and we're so glad and grateful for those of you who did take the time to respond. The questions that were geared to our donors were more around LCF's leadership and how you feel the pandemic may impact your view on philanthropy. And I just want to share some key highlights that we took away from the survey. So basically, majority of you validated that you want us to continue with our unrestricted assets, which is that community fund, the housing fund, to continue to make high impact, very strategic grants, as opposed to making little grants across the community. Because you do recognize that you're doing that with your own donor directed fund. So thank you for validating that we're doing a good job on that front. You also said that going forward, that you do believe with that unrestricted assets that we should be paying attention to vulnerable groups, affordable housing, and the environment. So like Martha said, we are actively working through this plan, and we'll be able to share that with you in the coming months. I think that's it for now for my part. I wanted to hand it over to you for questions. So, and maybe Nick, if you can flip it over so that everyone can see each other.
Yes, I will.
This is better. Okay, so do you want to start with questions? And you can, if somebody wants to ask, just wave your hand. Did I see you, Clint? Here,
Yes.
I unmuted you. Okay.
All right. Thanks. Yes, I'm a little technologically challenged. So just a comment for all of you on the team at LCF. Great job. What a lot of work you've obviously done, and I really appreciate it. I think as an individual donor, because I was saying to Diane not long ago that, you know, this is a rough time, and it's obviously a rough time for the most vulnerable, but even for donors who might feel, you know, isolated or overwhelmed, in the sense that, you know, you kind of feel, you look at COVID and the news some days, and you just think, you know, this is so much bigger than me. What can I really do? And yet, when we see what you've shown in the presentation, I think it's in really difficult times like this that we see the true power of LCF. So thank you for that. And by the way, if you hear any snoring in the background, it's not me, it's my dog. She's obviously getting a lot out of the presentations. Anyway, I wanted to ask Lori, because I know that she's been missing me. So I wanted to ask her specifically, Lori, I know it's been a lot of work and a lot of extra granting and granting reviews and whatnot that you've gone through this year that's been so extraordinary. And maybe it's too soon to ask this, but have there been any surprising successes? I feel like I need a little hope. Has there been anything that's worked out, you know, maybe better than you would have thought?
That's a great question, Clint. I think it's a lot of the grants that have come from the COVID fund are related to technology. And so both providing devices to clients, and then also that internet connection, providing programs and services, counseling virtually. And that has allowed the expansion of agencies' client bases and people to access things that they couldn't before. I think that's a huge win. Also, as this moves along, I think in the next few months even, you're going to see unification considerations of some agencies. Some are already underway. They've gotten on board and they're in talks, and we're seeing more and more of that, or hearing more and more of it. It's not official. We have to wait till they get to that end point where they sign off, but this is good. It's important. And that's a priority of the COVID Council, to somehow inspire that kind of rationalization, and collaboration is key. I hope that helps, Clint. I wanted to quickly mention, because I forgot to, the dental clinic was one of the most recent recipients from the COVID fund. So some of you may recall it was a community vitality grant a couple years ago. We seeded the dental clinic. It is now under construction on the second floor of the Glencairn Community Resource Center. Because of COVID, the requirements for that clinic were significantly increased, which of course increased construction costs. So this fund was able to help meet that difference, and also the emergency fund. So we're going to see that clinic open. The hope is before the end of the year.
Okay, any other questions? Oh, Murray, I'll unmute you. Oh, I think, okay, go ahead, Murray.
So I have a statement and then maybe a question for Martha. As part of this new donor development committee, I want to just make a comment to fund holders, not the staff necessarily, that I know that our social circles are pretty tight right now, but for the success of the London Community Foundation to keep expanding, we can't just rest on the generosity of our current donors. And so if you have a fund or you're a big supporter of London Community Foundation, I really encourage you to talk to your family and a circle of friends about the great success you've learned today, and how we can improve our community through endowments, which really is, as I've said, the pension plan for the City of London and the County of Middlesex. My second point, and I don't know if anyone could answer this though, I now see that we have a local Londoner who has now been hired by the national office as a community connector, national builder, senior advisor. Is that going to help us at all?
Is that for me, Murray?
Well, whoever can answer that, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. From my own perspective, I don't know. I know of the hiring. I don't know what the position really entails.
Oh.
I think it's a national position, so I don't know that we'll be given any special treatment.
Okay.
From the endowment perspective, and I think from the donor committee that met the other day, I think, really focusing in on legacy giving and bequests. We're just about to realize a $1.3 million bequest that was set up about 5 years ago. That a donor's biggest gift is usually through their final gift, which is a major gift, which is usually a legacy gift. But the Donor Development Committee, I was just applaud their commitment to coming together and really doing some discussion about how we can approach people that we should be approaching now, including financial advisors, professional advisors that know their clientele. They know who are the people that have high net worth that might be inclined to be starting an endowment now. And I think we need to continue to focus on that through that committee, Diane's work, my work, all of our work. I don't know whether that helps you at all. To your previous question, I have no idea what that position is going to be at the Community Foundations of Canada.
Okay, Laura, go ahead. Can you unmute?
There I am. Do you hear me now?
Yep.
I think my question sort of follows on Murray's a little bit. when the city or a province or political winds shift, how much advocacy does LCF actually bring to bear on issues? For example, the Back to the River initiative that was backed by the LCF but then was shelved by the city. Is there like an advocacy role or a legal or lobbying aspect of the LCF? How does that fit in?
Can I answer that? Laura, it's a really good question, and interestingly, we had a conversation yesterday at the Strat Plan task force about, and advocacy was something that we no longer have to abide by Canada Revenue Agency rules that said we could only advocate 10% of our time. So we have the ability now to advocate more, and that's definitely going to be built into our strategic plan. Back to the River was an initiative that we were invited by the city to participate in, and then the city just put their, I don't know, heels in the ground anyway. But it doesn't mean it's dead. We're going to still work in Soho. We're working with the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority and a McConnell grant that we've received to keep that brand alive and to keep donations like Lorraine Ivy Shuttleworth's for affordable housing in Soho adjacent to the river going forward. And whatever advocacy we need to do, we're going to do.
Any other questions? Oh, Dick, go ahead.
Yeah. Nice to see everybody, by the way. I've been living in my bubble for 6 months. To see human beings is kind of nice.
Yeah.
Question for the dental clinic, actually. Maybe this is Lori, or if it's open up for the whole group, basically. How are you guys staffing it with dentists, clinical staff? How do patients get to the new clinic specifically and find out about it? So operationally, how's it supposed to look and feel?
So there will be a dentist on staff, but they're going to tap into Fanshawe and Western and the dental students and interns there. Dr. Ken Wright is heading up the clinic. It's actually called the Wright Dental Clinic. And as he has been fielding a lot of inquiries, of course, because there's a huge demand this care. And so I don't know if a wait list has been created yet or not. That's a great question. I should find that out.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Just keeping track of time. We can probably take one more.
I will.
Okay, go ahead, Lynn.
Okay. Can you hear me fine?
Yes.
I just wanted to speak up. I live in Ottawa, and it's wonderful for me to feel like I'm part of a meeting at a set information session at the London Community Foundation. I've learned a lot this morning, and I must say the reference to my father, J. Allen Taylor, was wonderful for me. And yeah, and Lorraine Shuttleworth, whom I knew well, and her family. So and that operating endowment just sounds wonderful. And all the information on the finances too. So I'm really impressed, really glad to be here. And it is an advantage, I guess, of COVID that someone like me can be part of a session like this.
That's great. Thank you for saying that. Go ahead, Martha.
Lynn, can I just tell you too that the operating endowment was a result of Lorraine?
Yes.
She had a community fund with us, and she, after talking to her, she recognized through her philanthropy that you got to keep the doors on. You got to, have staff. You have to pay your utilities. You have to spend money to make money. And Lorraine really saw that, and she converted her fund to be the seed of the operating endowment. So what an example she was.
What a wonderful legacy that she left.
And probably through influence of your father.
I don't know that. But
well, I wouldn't be surprised.
Judith, did you have a question? Okay, here, let me help you. Oh, hang on, you're muted.
Let her unmute herself,
Diane.
Sorry,
There.
haven't done that before. No, I just wanted to echo the influence of J. Allen Taylor and Lorraine Shuttleworth. Martha, you know that I knew them both quite well, and I wanted just to point out that it goes back even earlier than the crisis that we had in 2002. Lorraine was the one who gave Allen Taylor the operating money. You know this, $75,000 at the very beginning to
Yeah.
pay for office space. And so knew that she understood the importance of operating. And as you know, that's really rare among donors to understand that, you know, we have to pay the staff in order to do a good job. So I just wanted to underline that. And I think that they would both be thrilled that the foundation now is finally has had the crisis that they were building towards all those years ago. So it's wonderful to see what you've been able to do. And $100 million seems unbelievable still. Good work.
Thanks, Judith.
Yeah, thank you. And we really owe that to the donors before you, right? Like you said, J. Allen Taylor, all those people that have contributed to the foundation over the years, including yourselves. So thank you for your foresight and for believing in this model. So on that note, because of the time, we are going to have to conclude this meeting. Please be on the lookout for an email from us asking you for your feedback. We want to know if you want to do more of these or what you want to hear more of. Just let us know. We're always here too. We're still in the peak of our granting season. So for those funds that haven't been granting yet, we're going to be connecting with you and reach out to us. Thank you for your commitment and loyalty to us. And we wish you all peace and good health and a great day. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.